Hello everyone. So for this kind of short video, I just wanted to bring up this funny thing that happened over the weekend, and that is on Sunday, I ended up getting stung by one of my dwarf lion's mane jellyfish, and I guess I didn't address it in the video on my dwarf lion's mane jellyfish. I thought I would just kind of go over like what the experience of being stung was like and how it affected me and how it affected the animal itself. So let's get right into it. So to get straight to the point, this past Sunday I was doing a water change on the jellyfish tank, and there was some like dead baby brine on the bottom, and I couldn't reach it all the way, airline to the bottom of the tank, and I really would try to keep my hands out of the tank just so I don't like contaminate anything or hurt them in any way, but I couldn't really control the airline tubing with my hand from kind of how far it was, so I just put my hand in there kind of towards the bottom and sucked everything out, but I did end up getting stung on my forearm, and I honestly didn't feel a thing, and it hasn't affected me in any way so far, but I thought I would kind of talk about how that was and how the animal is today. So I think the number one thing to talk about with the dwarf lion's mane is that they have some extremely long tentacles, and mind you, this is just kind of their juvenile stage. When they get to their adult stage, they have, not even joking, probably thousands of really long and stringy tentacles, and it doesn't look like thousands because they're all kind of bunched up, but if you see kind of how thin they are and then you look at how many the adults have, it looks like a paintbrush, and I'd probably say if you got stung by one of them you would probably feel something, but with these juveniles I didn't feel a thing. What I did feel was like something sticky attaching to my arm, like those kind of rubber sticky hands that you can throw. It felt a bit like that, but other than that, I didn't feel any pain, no irritations or anything like that. Since with the dwarf lion's manes, they do have like a little bit of a sting that might be noticeable if you have really sensitive skin, which I would say I'm kind of leaning towards that side since my skin is a little more on the sensitive side, but honestly, I wouldn't worry much about it. But one thing I did notice was that, when I did come to the realization and kind of the visual representation that I was stung, the tentacles were actually kind of sticking to my arm, which was pretty weird, and lifting my hand out of the water didn't help either, so I just kind of had to gently kind of, I don't know what you call it, but run this toothpick I had at my desk kind of down the line where the tentacle was touching and kind of give it some assistance to come off. But now it's Tuesday night and I still haven't felt any kind of after effects. Actually, one thing I did notice was that, so I went out to dinner afterwards after that, and my arm was a little tensed up, but I'm not sure that was from the sting or because of something else. But like comparing like my so I got stung on my right forearm, and then comparing like when I was gripping my hands together, my left arm was a lot more, I guess, looser than my right arm. So that was kind of a weird effect I felt. But other than that, nothing has happened, and that part only happened for about, I think, 30 minutes to an hour, so nothing serious, and I didn't have to go to the hospital, and hey, I'm still here today, so hopefully that doesn't change. I guess the next thing I should go over is how is the jellyfish that stung me is doing. So I put the video up here, but one thing I thought happened was that the jellyfish actually kind of shed its tentacles, and what I mean by that is, like I mentioned earlier in the video, the dwarf lion's manes do have really long stringy tentacles, and after doing the water change, I noticed that one of them, which I presume was the one that stung me, actually lost like 3/4 of its tentacles, since it had really short tentacles, and it still looked normal. It was still pulsing, but its tentacles were just not as long as it was once before. So I contacted Travis about that, and first of all, he did say that he was happy to hear that was okay, because he told me that they can pack a little bit of a punch, but besides like my arm, like my hand tensing up a little bit, it wasn't that much of an effect. But they can regrow their tentacles and their oral arms back pretty fast. But after I came back, like maybe 2 hours later after I got stung, I was not expecting to see that it had fully regrown its arms to the point where you couldn't even tell like which one had lost its arms. And I sent Travis the video saying like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And I learned a new thing, that jellyfish can actually retract most of their tentacles. And I don't know if it's just kind of the lion's mane group that can do this, or if it applies kind of like to every species of jellyfish that has really long tentacles, but that is something that's really interesting to me, and it mostly happens when they're stressed out. And I've seen that. I think it was yesterday night. I saw that again when I was like fixing something with the flow. They got kind of stressed out and retracted all their tentacles, and you can see that it doesn't really affect them in any way. But it's just an interesting thing that I learned, and it's actually kind of cool because you wouldn't expect them to do that, and it kind of makes them look like a box jellyfish from the way they move. But that's pretty much what kind of happened, and I guess I'll get some updated shots of how they're looking today. But both are completely unfazed and they're doing super well. Another interesting thing I learned was that originally I couldn't see if they were getting food or not, because like with other species of jellyfish, for example the moon jellies, it's super easy to tell. You know, the four circles kind of on like the top of their bell, rounding parts just kind of fill up, and that's their stomach, so you can easily tell like if they're getting food or not. But these guys, at first I had trouble kind of identifying if they're actually catching the food first of all and then digesting it. But I don't know if I have a clip or a picture of it, but you can kind of see a buildup of like these little gold things in their bell, which in my case, since I'm feeding live baby brine shrimp, that's the live baby brine shrimp that's in there. It might be different if you're feeding like dry jellyfish food, but that's just something really interesting I noticed. And if you're thinking about keeping the dwarf lion's mane, then that is something to look out for. I will most likely make a care guide on these guys in a couple months, probably when I reach like the 6-month mark, since I'm more of at like the 3-week mark so far. But so far they've been doing really well, and Travis said that they've also been, from what it seems like, doing super well as well. So slowly climbing up that kind of, jellyfish keeping ladder until you reach the ultimate jellyfish that I would like to keep. Well, it's not technically a jellyfish, it's a ctenophore, but Nemiopsis leadi, or the more common comb jellyfish, is definitely probably one of my favorite animals in the world, and definitely the kind of thing I'm working up to right now. I will probably keep another 1 or 2 more species, since right now I have the moon jellyfish, which are definitely beginners and super easy, and then I have the dwarf lion's mane, which is a little more kind of in the middle of easy and moderate. So something next like the blubber jellyfish, which have a little more special requirements, is probably next on my list. But most likely those, and then another species which also has some special requirements, is probably going to be next on my list. But after that, and if I have good success with the comb jellyfish, I might explore more into the ctenophore category with maybe like the sea gooseberries next, because those are pretty cool as well. But yeah, I really hope that everyone enjoyed kind of this little story for today. And one big thing I forgot to mention is that these are captive bred jellyfish by the Jellyfish Warehouse, and the main reason I'm bringing this up is because captive bred jellyfish have a way less kind of more painful sting than their wild counterparts do. Again, I don't know the kind of biology and science behind that, but if you do get captive bred specimens like I do, like these two are, then if you get stung, you'll find that the pain is way less. Stung by a wild lion's mane, thankfully, but I can imagine that it's probably 10 times worse than what you'll experience in captivity. So as long as you do your research and are careful of if you're buying captive bred or not, jellyfish make wonderful pets, and I hope that more people start getting into the hobby side of kind of jellyfish keeping, since they're really awesome and not as hard as people say they are. But with that being it, my name is Northwest Fish Keeping, signing out.